A rock and roll edition of Live from the Space at 100th Taylor with none other than Nikki Barber of the Minks. Nicole Angelique Barber. Look at you.
Look at me.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
I needed that splash of color and fashion in my life.
I brought the rainbow with me today.
Thank you so much.
And the crazy 70-degree weather.
Right?
I'm actually dressed for winter, but it's pretty nice.
What's up with that? Like 3 nights ago, it was like freezing cold.
I know.
And today we're sweating.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
But I'll take it.
Absolutely,
I'll take it.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Nikki. And of course, you're the lead front woman for the Minks.
Yep.
One of the best rock bands in Nashville.
Oh, thanks.
Well, actually, I have to tell you, I've been here like a year, basically. I'm from Miami. And when I started coming here and I started looking at the rock scene, they said, you have to go to 3rd and Lindsley, check out the Minks. I'm like, I don't know who they are, but I respect your opinion. I went, face melted with the rock and roll. People were on their feet. It was incredible.
Oh,
Saw you as well at
thanks.
Americana Fest. Everywhere we have seen you guys, basically, it's like the rooms are electrocharged with rock and roll. It is so badass, Nikki.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. That's always nice to hear. You know, I mean, we try to bring the energy, so it's good to know that people are feeding off of it. You know? I think that's the whole point, is to exchange the good positive energies with each other.
Totally,
you know?
totally. And obviously, you know, Nashville is known as like, you know, by most people as country music or like Americana, but there is like a burgeoning rock scene, right, Nikki?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's like freshly started, but it's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've been here 9 years, but it was already brewing when I got here, and there's so much besides just country. I mean, obviously the country is great here, but I mean, there's a spot for everyone. There's, you know, garage rock, psychedelic, there's even like rap and pop, you know. I mean, I'm not totally in that world, but like there is room for everyone in Music City, which is cool.
There is, and it's, I mean, you guys are here. I mean, Moon Taxi's here. I mean, Kings of Leon, I think, started here. So definitely there's rock and roll, for sure.
Oh yeah, there is. And it's cool to see people like taking off with it too, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like we all have this dream to get our music heard, and then when you see it actually happening to people, that makes it like a tangible reality, you know, not just a dream, which is really cool.
Totally, Nikki. And you're such an interesting, you know, artist in person. I mean, because not only are you a musician, but you're a painter. You take photos. You're a fashion designer.
I know, I do
clearly
a lot.
fashionista. I mean, you're like a Swiss knife of artistic beauty in the world.
Oh, I love that.
You know?
Like that.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you were born in Gettysburg, PA, Pennsylvania, better known as a important part of the Civil War, basically.
7 years ago.
There you go.
Everyone knows it.
There you go. How was it growing up in Gettysburg, you know, like that creative soul as a little girl?
It was interesting. I mean, Gettysburg's beautiful. Like, they've preserved the area a lot because of the Civil War and things, but there really isn't a whole lot of musical culture there. So I was just really lucky because the years that I was growing up there, my friend was running like a music venue that kind of allowed all of us who were in middle school and high school to like get together and perform open mics and perform shows and stuff. And it's not even there anymore. So I just feel like really lucky that I was there.
It was there for you.
Blip in time. It kind of does feel like that sometimes for my friends and I, just in the sense that because that gave us so much culture, you know, and allowed us to like see beyond the small town, because it's a very small town. Though it's close to a lot of cities, which was cool. Like, it's 2 hours from Philly, 2 hours from Pittsburgh, DC, New York's only 4 hours. So it was nice to like have a hub that you could kind of get out and see stuff. So that was good. But yeah, I'm just really lucky that I grew up there when I did, because there was a lot of people playing music and playing originals things, and that was really cool to get started that way.
Definitely. And bands came through there all the time because of what you said, like its location as well.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, my friend curated this awesome venue, and bands would actually come through Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, you know? Yeah.
Totally.
you don't really hear about that too much anymore, you know, except for when we do a hometown show or something.
Sure.
But, you know, but.
Sure. But before that, Nikki, like when you were like, you know, in elementary school, growing up, you know, I would imagine that someone like you, like that, you're born with that. You're born with that artistic zest.
Yeah,
do you have like memories as a child of like just being so creative?
I definitely have always, liked artsy things and stuff. Like I'm very visual and color oriented, so I've always I think that's why I was always gravitated towards like fashion and stuff right away. Was because of the colors and the textures. I grew up with mostly women. I'm really close to my mom and my aunt, and they were all about that, and they actually painted a lot. But really my dad was the true artist in our family, and he was a great painter, and also was a cartographer too. So he was really into map making and things like that. But he kind of just taught me a lot about art without even sitting down and saying this is art or anything like that. Like he kind of lived that life, and so it was cool to grow up around that and to talk with him about things like that. I mean, he was always so positive about, you know, go for what you want to do and do what you want to do, which is really, I think that helps too, having like a positive person around you supporting you kind of to be able to be artistic and stuff. So that was really nice. But
right on.
Yeah.
Okay, Nikki. But okay, so you know, you grew up in this artistic environment, but you go to school and you study fashion, right? In fact, let me ask you about Nikki Stitch.
Yeah.
You had your own fashion line.
I do, which honestly...
You still have it?
I do, and it kind of really came out of the pandemic, to be honest, because I had done alterations and things for people for years and years. Like music and fashion really go hand in hand, I feel like. You know, when people are up there on stage, they want to look good in something that they feel confident in. Yeah. And so when I moved down here, I realized that I could use my fashion know-how, you know, my sewing skills to help people look good in their stage wear. So I was doing that, but then when the pandemic hit, you know, it was like, obviously music wasn't happening in the way that it once was. We weren't touring, so I had worked in like bars and things like that, but I wasn't really comfortable doing that. So I was like, well, I guess I gotta do something in sewing in the fashion world. And so I kind of started Nikki Stitch and just started coming out with like creations and putting them up on Instagram, and people would buy them. And then it also worked out too, because I feel like everyone was going through their closet, and so people had alterations that they needed.
So cool.
Yeah, it kind of just started on a whim last year, 2 years ago, whatever.
Okay, so it was like about birth of the pandemic, basically. I love that. Yeah, people like grew, like people.
I know, it was so fun to watch everybody kind of take their hobbies to a new level, you know. And like everyone had the time for it, but also like the playing field was evened, you know what I mean? Everyone was like, okay, we're gonna try out something new, and that was really cool.
I know.
So
and you know, reading in research about your influences, it all makes perfect sense, because we're talking about Patti Smith, we're talking about the Velvet Underground and Lou Reed and Bob Dylan, and these were people that through their fashion and their music, it was like one same thing, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel like oftentimes a true artist or musician, you know what I mean? I feel like people who really like stand the test of time are people who just, they're not trying to be something, they just like are this entity that you want to know about, and you want, like, you know, it's not like they're putting on like an outfit to put it on and go out there. That's just like who they are. Yeah. You know, and that's funny. Like to me, so often, especially when I'm really wearing like a crazy getup, I just love like textures and patterns, like I said. So I'm always just wearing crazy stuff. But like people will often come up to me and be like, "Oh, that's a cool costume," or something like that. And to me, I'm like, this is just
this
like
is just
what
me.
I threw on. You know what I mean? Or like, which is fine. You know what I mean? I do think. Yeah, certain people just like live and breathe this type of thing. Like you said, it's kind of interesting. Maybe some people are just born with it in a certain way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It's kind of just who you are.
God,
It's
Nikki.
in you.
I could talk to you for
like
17
it.
hours. This is like ridiculous. I love it. So you moved to Nashville 9 years ago, almost 10 years.
Yeah,
you
in
said.
September, I guess.
September is going to be 10 years. Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah, no, it's amazing. So you've seen Nashville change a little bit. So you're you're a perfect person to ask this, because you haven't been here like 40 years ago where like, you know, people say like, oh, the Gulch used to be like a parking lot. No.
Right.
But at the same time, you've seen it grow a little bit.
Definitely, yeah.
And,
so much.
And like, what's your relationship to that? Because I know people here have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not from here, so I can't say I've seen it from the start, but I have seen it grow exponentially. I feel like I moved here right at like the start of things really starting to change. And I guess it is hard because I think growth is good, and I think that can, like, I feel like a lot of stuff is happening now because people are moving here and there's a lot going on, which is really cool. There's more to do, you know, just in general. But I do get a little worried because Nashville had the beautiful thing about Nashville is it had such a culture and such a history to it. And I do fear that a lot of people who are moving here don't necessarily know that or understand it as well as we once did, because so much of it is getting bulldozed and things are getting put up in its place. You know, all these like crazy little special places that, you know, Towns Van Zandt and people used to like go to or no longer exist. And then I just get worried that it will get washed out, you know. But I think there's definitely people here who are trying to keep that alive. So I think as long as we're, you know, as long as we value Nashville's history, I think it'll always be cool. Yeah, totally. And you can't stop change, you know, and every city is kind of in a flux of that right now, so. Exactly. So. Nikki, and Light and Sweet, which is the 2019 album of the Minks. I mean, it's a phenomenal album. Like, there's no filler. It's just, it's an instant classic. Like, it's so good. I think everyone in this city, like, has it. Like, when we were growing up and everyone had, like, Phil Collins, like, everyone here has that album from the Minks in their collection. Let me ask you a couple questions about that album. Number one, the songwriting is really deep, actually. Oh, thank you. Like, if you remove, like, the instrumentation, it's really universal themes that you're, like, breaking out. It's really beautiful. Thank you. Tell me a little bit about your songwriting. And what I mean is, you know, this city, did some of this city's, like, academic way of, like, songwriting, like, get on you? Like, oh, I gotta write 20 songs a week, regardless of whether they're good or not. No, well, I do think living in the city like pushed me to be a better musician. Sure. So I think in that way it rubbed off because everyone's like doing great. Everyone came from a place where they were really good, and then you come here and it's like, oh, I gotta. Oh, I'm just be another one. It's crazy, yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. So there, I mean, there is a little bit of that kind of pushes you, but I don't feel like. I have too much of that. Like I don't like meet up with people just to co-write just in hopes that we'll make millions or anything like that. But I do write songs with my friends. Sure, you know what I mean? Sure. And I do. It's hard because I tend to just write when I'm feeling emotional or when something needs to get out. For me, songwriting is more or less like my diary. You know what I mean? Like if I'm feeling sad or happy or anything that really needs to get out, like that's when the songwriting happens for me. When you're emotional, Nikki, like is it easy to write a song like when you're like super depressed? And what I mean is everyone assumes that when songwriters are like sad and depressed and like in the gutter, that's like they start writing over their tears. Right. But like Yola and Brandy Carlisle, they once said like, no, that's not how it happens, at least for them. They said like, we need like a few days and then it happens. I do feel like that's kind of how it goes for me. I feel like in the moment, every once in a while something will fall out, sure, but I think oftentimes it's more or less like the reflection on what I've just felt when it comes out. You know what I mean? After I'm past that moment of like being in the tears, being in the sad. Yeah, exactly. It's like the next day or two when I'm like well, why did I feel that way, or how did I feel that way? And that's when like it starts to process, which is kind of funny about like in terms of like the pandemic. Like my mom would always be saying to me, you should write a song about what's going on, so you know, to give people hope, and which is a very beautiful idea and what I want to do. But sometimes it was really hard to write anything, especially about the pandemic, when the pandemic was happening, because it's happening, you know what I mean? So it was hard to process it.
Totally.
Whereas now I feel like we're having a little bit of separation with it. It's still kind of ongoing, but you know, like we were talking about, less of the fear and stuff. So I feel like things are going to start to come out more so in artists than they were during the time, because it is a reflection. You do have to like process.
It is.
To understand, and so.
And you're starting to see it in the albums coming out, in the music coming out.
Yeah, totally.
It's like starting to like seep into like, oh yeah.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Totally. Yeah.
I love it.
And it's a very real thing that we all had to deal with. So,
I love it. I love it. Well, Nikki, why don't you play a song for us, if you'd be so kind, and then we'll ask you one more song, and then like another song, and then we're good. Would that be cool with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
I love it.
I was thinking maybe I would actually do that last song on Light and Sweet, which is called Light and Sweet. Yeah. Because I don't get to do that one very often, because we normally are plugged in and rock and roll.
Right
so
on.
I'll do this song. It's called Light and Sweet. I wrote it for my friend who passed away, actually, and we were all kind of together, you know, celebrating his life, and then these words just kind of fell out, and it's not like a crazy hard song or anything, but I think the impact is there. I hope so. Yeah. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. Don't need much of anything, but I know I need you. Sometimes I get down, so sometimes I stay up, just thinking about the fun we've had, and I know I need you. Well, will we go? Well, I don't know. All that matters is that I let my love show. Sometimes life ain't fair, and sometimes life is mean, but with you it's just light and sweet, and I know I need you. Well, will we go? Well, I don't know. All that matters is that I let my love show.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. My chills have chills. Unbelievable. That's wonderful.
Well, good. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nikki, for your time.
course.
Last question. People are going to see you live.
Yeah.
And when people see the Minks live, your on-stage presence, you can't describe it. It's like Joan Jett meets, I don't know. It is just a lot. You're like a firecracker of energy. It's
Thank you.
wonderful. How do you get into that state? And I mean it like, seriousness, because you're playing an hour and 30 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes of nonstop energy. Like, that's a workout. And also, also like, that state. How do you do it? Like, what's your ritual the day of a show to after a show?
Well, I mean, when we're on tour, it is hard because like you're normally driving to the show, and so it's normally a lot of just stuff going on before. But once we get to the venue and kind of get sound checked and stuff, I do try to give myself some time to just kind of relax, and I try to stretch. Stretching really helps, especially when I'm running around. And I do try to warm up my voice, which is something I never used to do that, but I think it's so important to do.
Yeah.
I used to be like, it's not rock and roll to warm up your voice, but like that's so stupid. And so I give myself time to do that, but I don't know. I don't necessarily like need to get into a headspace to do it. It's just kind of within me, I think. Like, I always loved being on stage. Even as a kid, I'm a very shy person, like still to this day. But there's something about like when I'm on stage, it's like I'm not afraid. I don't know how to describe it really, but it's definitely something that's there because, I mean, I get afraid to like talk to people one-on-one at a bar or something, but like I could be in front of whoever singing whatever, and no big deal.
Unbelievable,
But yeah, so I don't really know where it comes from, but it definitely, I feel like whatever is within me that needs that like comes alive when I'm on stage. And so there's sometimes where I feel like I'm like, oh, I didn't move at all. And then I watch videos and I'm like running around and like, oh, I guess I do move. So I don't even know if it's like conscious that I'm exerting that much energy. You know?
Oh, it's amazing. Keep
Just
it up.
what comes out. Thanks.
Well, Nicole Angelique Barber, the Swiss knife of artistic talents.
Yeah.
You have said it all. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a true honor. And why don't you take us away? Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Guess I'll do a new song. How about that?
Yes, from the forthcoming album, right?
Yes.
Oh my
we have
God.
a new album.
What's the name of the song?
This one is called Keep Warm. And actually, I wrote it during the pandemic when everything was getting a little crazy. The right side and the left side, all the sides. And it was I wrote it about kind of not really trusting either side and reading for yourself. You kind of got to read between the lines. There was a lot of that going on. And I had also gotten a little fortune that said, if the world seems cold, kindle a fire to warm it. And I just loved that. And so I was like, I'll make that into a song kind of. So here's Keep Warm. Take it from me, there's more than what you see, creeping around underneath. We could have been friends, but you chosen to defend my right to be an equal woman. But man, before you know it, is gone. The leaves are dying, there ain't no sun. But if the world seems cold and tired and warm, then let's kindle a fire to keep it warm. 'Cause take it from me, don't believe all that you see, and even less about what you read. Oh, sail you all around, saying so you wise with lies, without even a blink of an eye. Ooh, but man, before you know it, he's gone. The leaves are dying, there ain't no sun. But if the world seems cold and tired and warm, then let's kindle fire to keep it warm, keep it warm. Take it from me, oh, it ain't good company that's creeping around underneath. And all that you see is inside you for free. So kindle that fire to keep it warm. Man, before you know it, he's gone. The leaves are dying, there ain't no sunlight at dawn. But if the world seems cold and tired and warm, then let's kindle fire to keep it warm.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Thank
Thanks
you so
for
much.
having me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.